welcome back to this week's episode of AMA Friday with Amy Miller, recruiting in yoga pants. Let's see if I can get y'all enraged this week. I feel like this is a fairly benign topic, but somebody somewhere is going to be mad and then leave a nasty comment about how I just ranted for 10 minutes and brought no value. But you watched. Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple of common types of interview questions. I'm not going to tell you which one I prefer. See if you can guess, and then I'll tell you at the end. Okay, so the reason why I think this is important is because, again, going back to what I've always said, understanding how a company hires is critical. You will be far more successful if you know what you're getting into and therefore know how to prepare. So the preparation, understanding the kinds of examples to create, the kind of questions to be ready for, and having those, just being in that mental headspace, right, of knowing this is probably what I'm going to get, so how I can prepare and be ready for the question. So that's what I want to dig into today. There are maybe some other variations. So again, your specific mileage may vary greatly. As always, talk to your recruiter, talk to the person in charge of helping you get ready for these interviews. They are going to be your best source of knowledge every time, one would hope. But to try to simplify this a little bit, couple of big ways that we usually do this. Number one is behavioral-based questions or behavioral-based interviews. Number two is hypothetical scenarios. So you have behavioral-based, hypotheticals. Behavioral-based interviews are typically we're asking questions, or the interviewers will ask questions about specific examples. So they're going to propose a scenario, or they're going to create a question, and they're looking for you to respond with a specific scenario that you have been in. So the best way to prepare for those kinds of questions is to have examples from your previous experience ready to go. So one of the things I tell all of my candidates to this day, I just had this conversation 10 minutes ago before I wrapped up and came to make this video for you all. But one of the things I tell my candidates, and I did this as well when I was interviewing, is to go back through my resume, through my work history, and pull out some of those career highlights. So think about some of the specific things that I did that relate to the job. Hopefully I have an idea from my recruiter, the kinds of topics or the focus areas that I'm going to be asked about, and I can prepare some answers ahead of time. So what I did, I had that list, I had a bunch of things I'd done in my 20 years of, recruiting experience, and I would kind of refer to that list of those scenarios that I had prepared, to those examples that I had. So behavioral based is, again, you're being asked about a specific scenario. In a perfect world, it's something you've done in the past. Sometimes, I don't know who made this up, but the best indicator of future performance is past performance or something like that. I probably said that wrong. You get where I'm going with this. So having those kind of things prepared, super helpful. Hypothetical, this is where we just want to hear your thought process, right? This is almost, it can be a little bit of a role play sometimes. So it could be, I'll give you an example. So we're giving you an experimental situation, right? May or may not be super relevant to the role, but we're giving you this experimental, hypothetical scenario. What would you do? Here's an example. Google does hypothetical interviews, right? And in part anyway. I'm sure they do other stuff too. I don't remember. It's been a long time. I was asked, when I had my Google interview, I was asked, how would you redesign the G-Bus? Now I have to admit, I prepared for the rocket boot question. I was ready to explain in great detail how I would design a pair of rocket boots. Friends, I did not get the rocket boot question. I got the G-Bus question. And so, of course, my opening question is, what's a G-Bus? I have questions too before I can give you a direct answer. So anyway, the point being, what they were looking for was not me redesigning the G-Bus. I think it was actually the G-Bus route. Yeah, I don't think it was the actual vehicle. I think it was like the route. At least that's the answer I gave. So, I started talking through, well, here's the data that I would need. I would have questions about this, that, and the other thing. And I would need to understand, what does ridership look like? And, have we done a survey? Have we kind of figured out, like where people think we're not doing great here, blah, blah, blah. So you kind of just start doing this, almost stream of consciousness, right? Like and then this, and then I would ask that, and then if I had and then if I got this information, then that would lead me here. And so you could I could go all day. I mean, you give me a experimental topic and free reign. Give me a whiteboard, give me some room, give me some snacks. I'm gonna be here all day. I got plans, right? So be careful. You don't have that much time. An interview is maybe 45 minutes long, right? And that's only one question. You're going to get more than one. So be cautious. So those are the differences in those two styles. Now, on the behavioral based side, you might get, again, this is more specific to something you've actually done, an actual scenario you've lived. And so you might get something like, tell me about a time when, you disagreed with your manager on an initiative, on a project you were supposed to take on. Just one. Just kidding. So you might get a question like that. And then, so of course you want to think about a specific scenario, mentally walk through your background. What have I ever, when have I faced that? What did I do? This is often where we will see the STAR method kind of overlaying that, right? I have a video on the STAR format and answering questions in the STAR format. I will link to that up above so you can take a peek at that as well. But this is where you're now going to talk through, well, this one time I was asked to do a certain thing. I disagreed for these reasons. I proposed this data. I created an alternative plan. I was able to implement that plan. And by doing so, we saved, made, improved, whatever result. So the behavioral based is, it can be tricky. I learned recently, and I did not know this. So here's where I'm going to admit, here's what I'm going to tell you the answer to the opening question. I hate with every fiber of my being, hate hypothetical questions. Did you see that coming? Did you know that's what I was going to say? If you know me, you probably already knew that. I don't like hypotheticals. And I think the reason I struggle with them is because I will chase every rabbit trail. I will well, we could do this. And, oh, but wait, maybe we could. Oh, and then there's you will lose me. I'm gone. I mean, I get distracted, I get new ideas. Well, what about, it's a mess. If you ask me a behavioral based question, I'm going to hone in and I'm going to specifically talk to you about, I did this thing and here's how I did it. And so behavioral based questions for me personally are my love language. I learned, this is where I was going with this. I learned recently, there was this conversation about this on Recruiter Twitter not too long ago, a couple months ago. A lot of people hate behavioral based questions. And I was so surprised. I really felt like, okay, maybe I'm the weirdo. Is it me? Am I the drama? Usually. So it was really interesting. I really had to take a step back and go, oh, wow. Okay. So people definitely have preferences and feel that they perform better in one of these two ways. So super interesting. I think, again, in closing, we're already, almost 10 minutes in, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I think in closing, the most important thing you can do, number one, understand how the company does the interview. Like, ask specifically, what is kind of the Q&A format? What kind of questions can I expect? Is it one of these two methods? Is it something else entirely? Number two, ask for advice. What's the best way to prepare? Do you want me to just kind of be open-minded and experimental and kind of come up with, scenarios on the fly, or should I prepare specific examples of previous successes? Like, ask those questions, because again, I've never designed a G-bus route. I had nothing to share except what I came up with in the meeting. Just saying. So that's it for this week, my friends. So those are the two common ways that interviews are conducted. Which one do you prefer? I'd like to know. Maybe we should do a poll because I'm really curious. I have a sneaking suspicion I might be the only one that prefers behavioral. We'll see. All right, y'all, let me know down below in the comments because you know I read them all. And we will see you next week.